All right, and I think we are live. Good evening, everybody. This is Archangel Inc. This is Rob Archangel, and I am joined once again by Jordan Ring. Jordan, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you, Rob?
I am doing just fine. It's good to be
Good.
here, and good to
Once
be here.
again.
Yeah, Archangel Inc. Live number 8. So we entitled this one SEO Basics: Brainstorming Book Idea Topics. And last week we talked about going through, kind of just a basic, hey, how do I go do some keyword research? How do I use Amazon and figure out, kind of if there is a market for my idea, and how do I maybe tailor what I'm doing? So we're going to attempt to do a little bit of technical feat that we haven't done before. Thank you, StreamYard. Hopefully everything will go smoothly. And folks out there watching the replay or watching live, feel free to comment. Everybody who commented last time, thanks so much for participating. And I will keep an eye on the self-publishing books page. I know last time Dale was gracious enough to host a viewing party. So, if anybody comments there or on our page or on our YouTube channel, I will do my best. So pardon my eyes if I'm, darting to and from. But Jordan, did you have anything you wanted to mention before we jump right in?
There's one thing I wanted to mention. We had a comment on one of our posts, and I'm pulling it up right now.
Oh, cool.
Erica commented and had a question for us.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I just remembered it, and I wanted to make sure we covered it.
Cool.
I think it was on one of our posts where we asked if anyone had any questions. So I wanted to make sure we did that just to honor that, just so people know that if you do comment, Rob and I are watching, and we do want to hear from you. We want to answer the questions that you have. For sure.
Right.
Okay. So Erica at Ink Deep Editing asked, I've had clients ask whether there was a better time of year for publishing certain types of books or better days of the week to launch a book. Not sure if you've addressed that before, but wouldn't mind having a professional's opinion to share. I'll give my take on this, or if you want to start.
No, please jump right in.
Sure. Yeah. So the only thing we really tend to say here at Archangel Inc. is that publishing around Christmas time isn't necessarily the best option, I think, for several reasons. For, just timing of the year and being around to get it all done. Do you want to be working on a book launch during that time, or do you want to be spending time with family? And there are a lot of books that are popping up there at the end of the year. Now, maybe your book is in health and fitness and you want to get it online in time for, in time for the new year, the movements in getting some resolutions. That's the word I'm looking for. Getting some resolutions in. Maybe that'll fit. Tends to be a lot of goals set at the beginning of the year to lose weight. So if you want to get it in by that time, that's something where it could make sense. That's the only thing we really say. Otherwise, time of the year, we don't really find a huge difference. Quarter 4 typically it does tend to do really well. But other than that, there's not a huge difference that I've seen or that we've heard from people. And then there's certainly going to be people that have different opinions on that. That's just our experience.
Right.
And then days of the week, I typically will launch my books either Monday or Tuesday. Those seem to be really good days. You probably would want to avoid launching a book on a Friday night or a Saturday morning, or maybe a Sunday afternoon. But other than that, it's not a huge difference either way with that. But I would start at the beginning of the week just so you have time to dedicate to that book launch, just to give your book the best amount of success you can with that.
Cool. No, great insight. So I have a number of different thoughts, and I will pull that screen up. So thank you, Erica. Great question. We appreciate it. And let's go back to me and you, Jordan. So, okay, a couple of different ideas. The first thought is that sort of thing can be important, but it may not be as important as you think it is as an outsider. You have all these different thoughts and concerns, and you want to maximize every variable. And, having launched books all across the year, granted, we've done, I would say, a lot of nonfiction, a fair bit of fiction, some travel memoirs, some personal memoirs, that kind of thing. So it may be different for different genres, and I'll comment on that in another moment, because I did do a little bit of research after reading Erica's question.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and have a couple of little takeaways to share, and I'll be happy to share afterward the article that I read that I thought was pretty helpful. But in general, if you are doing all of the big things, having a good quality book cover, thinking about your launch plan, having a good title, having really good content, making sure all the details are attended to, that you have your technical specifications laid out, and your book is going to be formatted correctly. You don't have any obvious errors, any issues like that. That's the lion's share of it. It's kind of like the analogy, I think, when it comes to fitness or nutrition. If you have a mediocre diet, if you're not exercising very often, and you're like, oh well, do I have to worry about pre, peri, and post workout meal timing? It's like, maybe if everything else is dialed in, that can give you that extra little edge, that extra 1% or 5% boost. But for most people, just making sure that you're sleeping well, you're eating reasonably well, you're getting movement, you're keeping your stress levels moderate, you're engaging in some sort of health promoting activity in terms of pursuit of your own life passions, having positive social experiences and positive professional experiences. If you're doing all of those things, then some of those other details may not matter as much. Bringing it back to the publishing realm, if you're doing those things, you're taking time, you're putting together a really thoughtful book, you're finding a topic that is of interest to your readers, which we're going to be talking about tonight, doing basic category research and keyword research and figuring out if there's a market for what you're talking about. If you are paying attention to formatting, you're paying attention to design, you're making sure that you're speaking the language of your readers, then all those other things, they may not matter as much. Maybe you could maximize it by releasing it mid-June rather than late June, or doing it on Wednesday or Tuesday morning instead of Thursday or Friday night. But all of that said, I don't know how big of an impact that's going to have. Unless all those other things are dialed in. So if you have all those other things dialed in, that's great, and definitely try and get the edge wherever you can. But if you're overwhelmed, like many first-time authors are, or self-publishing authors in general, first time or having done it multiple times, and you're just trying to kind of keep your head above water, then stressing out over those small details may not be to your advantage. So those are a handful of thoughts. I have a couple of other things, but I wanted to give you a chance to interject and respond to anything if you wanted, Jordan.
No, I'm in full agreement with you there. It's one of those things. If you're there are so many other details to worry about, that it is a question we get a lot. Everyone is concerned about that, but we're just, in our opinion, there are other things you want to make sure you get down pat first before you're super worried about that.
Yep.
But yeah, cool. I totally agree.
Right on. So another thought is, yes, Q4 in general, especially for the sorts of books that we end up working on frequently, can be really good. You don't necessarily want to be launching right at that time, though. It can be helpful to already be there, have a little social proof, have some credibility, have some organic sales already, have some reviews, have some of those things lined up already that make it possible for those Q4 sales to kind of happen and that momentum to take hold. If you're launching right at the end of let's say end of December, then that big book buying flurry that other people are seeing in Q4, you're kind of missing out on it because you're not set up for success in October and November, and then the early part of December beforehand. So think about that. About getting it set up for, okay, if my genre tends to do really well, people, again, like you have a book about resolutions or fitness or planning or productivity or those kinds of things that are often linked up with the New Year's era, the New Year's timeframe.
Yeah.
then yeah, have that planned ahead of time and get your ducks in order. Perhaps just a little bit beforehand. Obviously, there's a balancing act because with Amazon, there is the 30-day window when you have that hot new release, and Amazon's trying to figure things out. And so if you can kind of focus a bit of your marketing effort and momentum there, that could reap some disproportionate benefit relative to other times. So, each situation is going to be a little bit different. You kind of have to weigh it and determine what's going to be appropriate for you. But, don't expect, obviously, to release a book on December 31st and see the amazing sales that everybody else is seeing on Q4, because you're only giving yourself a day to do that. So one other thought, which I wanted to share, and and there was a couple of articles I looked at, but one I thought was pretty helpful, and I will find that and I will share that in the comments down below, or rather in the description afterward. But it can be helpful to think about your genre. So again, for us, a lot of the things that we do are kind of nonfiction, productivity, personal development, entrepreneurship, health, fitness, that kind of thing. But for example, if you are producing textbooks, you're writing textbooks, then you probably want to have it out in time for the beginning of school semester. So, mid-August, early September, thereabout, releasing a brand new textbook in, the middle of February, after the term is, second semester or whatever has started, after the school year is well underway, may not be to your greatest advantage. So it may help to, do research, plan, and then kind of delay the launch a little bit later in that case. Or if you're writing fiction, you have short stories, novellas, full-length stories that you're kind of trying to capture the summer reading market, then have it released around that summer reading time. Obviously, different genres of book are going to be more popular during different times of year. Obviously, if they're holiday themed books, scary books, you might want to have it out in time for October, or family and household books, maybe around the holiday time, romance books, perhaps around Valentine's Day. You can kind of think about that. And presumably, if you're writing in this genre, if you are someone who is creating content here, the patterns. You're probably a consumer of this genre as well. So what people are looking for and what they're doing. And so, you might try and think about that and plan for it accordingly. Again, making sure to do all of that legwork ahead of time and give yourself lots of time to, get your ducks in a row. For us, our production time is, typically around 3 months, 2.5, 3 months, somewhere around there. And then if we're going to do the marketing plan as well, another month after that. So you want to have a good month once everything is final and ready to go. And you theoretically could just click publish, to not click publish, but get everything ready and get it in order, so you can kind of maximize all of the good work and time and energy and effort that you've invested into it. So, okay, I'll stop now too. And anything else that you wanted to share on that, Jordan?
No, that's it. Okay,
cool. Erica, thank you again. Great comment. Great question. If anybody has thoughts or experiences that are complementary or contrasting or different, or anything to add to what we said, please definitely feel free to share it. We'd love to hear more about it. We have our perspective and things that, we've observed from the clientele that we've worked with, but other folks out there may have different experiences, and we're happy to learn from that and hear more about it. Cool.
Cool deal.
All right. So Jordan, all of that said, let's jump into the topic at hand. So we're going to be talking about SEO basics and brainstorming, book ideas. So would you like me to go ahead and just share the screen that we have pulled up so we can kind of demo for people what this looks like?
Yeah, go ahead and then let me know when it's up and looking good.
Okay.
But I do want to we're going to go over just a couple things. I want to go through and basically do this kind of like I was just jumping on Amazon and doing this. I'm in a place where I did release my latest book the last month or two. I'm getting in this place where I have a ton of book ideas. I have a lot of things that I think would be good to write about. But the one thing I do is make sure I'm looking on Amazon, doing some keyword research, and really looking, is this something people are looking for? Does my idea match up with a need that people have? That's why, that's one of the most important things when you're thinking about keywords. Just to think about, okay, keywords really mean what people want. That's really what we're looking at. That's why I like keywords so much, not because I'm a data nerd, because I think with a lot of things I'm not, I don't really care about data as much. But with keywords, I really do like it because people are actually going to Amazon. They're actually searching these things. And you have access to that. We have access to that. We have access to look and see, what are people buying? What are they searching for? So with all that being said, we just wanted to go through some methods. So if I was going to start out and I said, okay, I have an idea about productivity. And again, we're going to go through this in a couple different ways. We're going to look at categories for books. We're going to look at another technique that we mentioned last week, I think, is looking at negative reviews on similar books. So if you have a book about productivity, looking at some other productivity books and see what people didn't like about those books. What can you do better? How can you build that content out? And then also, I want to just talk a little bit more about keywords. And I have Publisher Rocket, which formerly KDP Rocket is now Publisher Rocket. And I even wrote it down wrong when I wrote the notes for this one. KDP Rocket is Publisher Rocket now. I'm going to pull that up too. I was making sure it was updated. And then we're going to pull that up too. And then we're going to talk a little bit about keywords. But let's just jump in. We're going to look on just Kindle ebook. So for anyone that would want to do this, or anyone that wants me to look at a certain thing, just let us know in the comments. But I'm just going to go with the general theme of productivity because that's a pretty wide overarching category. And we're just going to type that in here.
Okay.
And really, what you're looking for books that are similar to your ideas. So, I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of different books in this, that all of these are probably very, I mean, it's such a wide category that all these books are very different. You can look at some maybe not so popular ones that have like lower amount of reviews, or we can look at ones like this Atomic Habits right here. It's actually a really good book by James Clear. Let's just pop into that one, and then we're going to look at the category. So this is just how to start. Start by searching a word, and then we're going to jump into categories where we can really kind of delve into this. So we're just looking at Atomic Habits here. I'm going to scroll down on the screen just in case I was moving too fast there. Mm-hmm. And how we're going to find the category screen for the similar type books, we're going to look here. So this book is ranking in a lot of different things: health and fitness and dieting, social psychology and interactions, organizational behavior. I would say pick whichever one you're kind of thinking or kind of more familiar with, and then we're going to go from there. We're just going to click on the organizational behavior. Really what we want to do is we want to get to a screen like this. This is data, and it's rich in that we can see what is selling the best. So I clicked into this screen right here. This is just one way to get to this Amazon bestsellers page. There's probably another way. I don't really know it. That's how I always find it. I just find a book and then pick and find my way into this category page. But there's so much here. You can see that Atomic Habits is obviously doing very well. Habits is something that people are interested in. Mm-hmm. We can start to scan through and see what else. I know this book, Principles by Ray Dalio, I think. Mm-hmm. I've not read this one. This has been on the top of Amazon for quite a while. You can start to see which books are doing well and which books are popular, and you can kind of begin to think about, okay, I want to write a book about productivity. What does that look like? I'm not just going to call it productivity is great. Here's 10 reasons why, because right. People want but they want something a little bit different. So you can start. That's just one way to start getting your head into it. Like we said, you can type in any type of keyword. If you're looking at fishing books, you can type in fishing. Right. If you want to talk about books about camping or whatever that is, you can start to see this.
So one thing I want to add, Jordan, and mention just as we're looking through here, you can also use this when you're developing your cover. So this is part of what goes into us and our design. So a couple of things strike me just at a glance, because this is on my screen. It's not super big, but I see the thumbnails. I'm seeing repeating. Colors red and yellow seem to be pretty common. Yep. White seems to be pretty common as well. Also, a lot of primarily text-based covers. You've got measure what matters. As you scan back at the top, there is the age of agile. I can't quite see it. What you do is who you are. All of these things that are kind of statements, statement covers. Obviously, Atomic Habits. I think I mentioned that. So you want to think about that. Okay, if this is what people expect out of a productivity cover, and you design a cover, let's say you do it yourself, and it looks nothing like this. Well, it could work, but it also might get overlooked. It might look like it's out of place, and somebody who goes and they're looking for amazing new productivity books, they might say, okay, what happened? What happened here? They might just not even think about it and scroll right past it. So you want something that's going to speak that language and kind of communicate in the lingua franca of your genre. And
I love that you said that, because that makes me think of the whole idea of that it fits for the cover there, but you want to do the same exact thing when you're coming up with an idea for your book. You want to find something that just fits, but at the same time, people are ready for, people want to see. You don't want to put a book that is, is maybe something similar to Atomic Habits, but it's so similar that people are like, well, I'm going to buy this book by this James Clear, and there's 1,400 reviews. I'm just going to buy that one.
Yeah, I'm not going to buy Electron Habits, from random author. It sounds a little too similar, and it's got 0 reviews. So no.
And this is a great way just to develop your initial content ideas, but really the whole idea is you want something that is going to fit within, but also stand out. And it's such a fine line, and it's so difficult, and we don't have it all figured out. I don't know how to go in and tell you what that exact line is. I think it's something you really have to just kind of get used to and figure out as you're starting to do all this research and you're working your idea. Okay, how does it fit in, but how does it stand out? And you want to just find that fine line. We have to really tread on that fine line. That's challenging. So this is just one way. Okay. But so within the categories, if you're looking at, once you're on this screen, you can start to look at different books too. I just clicked over into this business and money category. A lot of books out there are business books. We get in a lot of people that are writing in that way. You can look through here, look at the different, maybe we're just looking at entrepreneurship and small business. Let's just click on that. Yeah, we can see a Bitcoin book is doing well. Okay, maybe Bitcoin's something I could write about because cryptocurrency is huge right now. Just thinking about different things. There's so many different books out there. There's so much opportunity. You can start to see where, books, This Measure What Matters was on the other page as well. So then this book is just it's a good cross book. And I also think this is good as you're doing your research for what to write about. Pick up some of these books that you keep seeing over and over again. Maybe you don't need to read them all. That would be way too time consuming. But yeah, maybe this book, Measure What Matters, you keep seeing it pop up. You're like, why does that book keep popping up? Why is it so super popular? Let me read it. Let me check it out.
Right.
And then I will add one tip. So as we're talking about that, before we move on to tip 2, I want to just cover something real quick that this isn't necessarily an initial phase. So we're getting a little deep here. I won't spend too much time on it, Rob, but I did want to share this too. I'm clicking into the look inside in the book. One of a great way to build your own table of contents, to build your own outline, is to look at the table of contents of other books.
Right.
See what he's talking about. Now, this maybe isn't telling me a lot. Maybe this book isn't necessarily going to help me in this way. Some will. Some are going to be, there's some stories in here. These aren't necessarily telling you exactly what the chapters are about. So maybe it's more of a book to read. Our tips aren't always going to work. Dang it. Let me click into them.
Yeah,
but just the idea that you can look in the table of contents for the most part for a lot of books, and you're gonna be able to see what it's about. And maybe if you knew a lot of this stuff, you'd be able to tell, oh, that story's cool. I know that story, or I know the gate story, or whatever we're looking at. But just remember that look inside features there for most books. You can start to build out some of your content in that way.
Right. And so a couple of thoughts on that. One, this speaks to why it's important to have your formatting lined up. Somebody can actually look inside of your book. So it doesn't, obviously, we'd love to have you work with us. It doesn't have to be with us, but it just has to look good. It has to look right, because if they click on that link, that look inside link on Amazon, and it looks like a mess, and it's hard to follow, and words are not lining up, that's a bad sign for you. It doesn't give the reader or the potential future buyer a lot of confidence. And so just getting that set up. The other thing too, like we talked about last week, you can use this your table of contents, if you organize it intentionally, as another element of your marketing. So let's say somebody they like your cover, the title speaks to them, the subtitle pulls them in. They're reading the description. You've got a few good reviews. If they're clicking on your table of contents, they're probably intrigued enough to at least be really seriously thinking about your book, or at least, us, kind of learning about it and figuring out what it can do for them, and in terms of genre and all that. So you can use that as a way to captivate people. You can almost, I've seen some authors use the almost that clickbaity, chapter headings, and get people involved. So for example, in the Published Professional, one of the chapters that, you know, it was a story that I culled from another colleague, another client of ours. It was, you know, how one man earned $50,000, from his book without doing anything, or something to that effect. And you're like, well, I'm kind of interested. I want to know what that is, you know. So that might be another thing that causes someone on the fence to decide, all right, that's kind of cool. I can at least, you know, go ahead and download it and see if it's what I expect and something that's going to do what I'm hoping it will do for me.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Love that. So that's the categories. Just in a nutshell. If you guys need any more help with that or have any other comments or questions, just let us know. We can always go over that in next videos. We're always happy to help in the best way we can. But we're going to skip down to our second. Just another way of gathering some initial data and starting to figure out what do I want to write about is the idea.
Oh, sorry, Jordan. So one thing, are you taking notes along the way, or like, are you noticing things, or is this all, at least for your process, just kind of stuff that's circulating in your head, or are you intentionally creating any sort of document, copy pasting any key phrases that you come across, or, any recommendations for what's worked with you as you're doing this keyword research for other people out there who are thinking about it?
Yeah. So that's a great question. When I'm first doing it, I am kind of taking a bird's eye view, and I'm just kind of getting a general feel. Once you start to realize to say, hey, okay, I do want to write about productivity, or I want to write about time management, I kind of want to put this spin on it. At that point, then I would start looking and writing things down, writing different keywords people are using, writing some of the table of contents. What are several books hitting? If every book on the subject of Bitcoin is hitting on what do I do with my Bitcoin? Where do I pull it from? That's just something, maybe you're obviously going to talk about that,
right? But
just that's something you want to make sure is in your book. So,
right. Yep. Or maybe even going down that Bitcoin road, what's the difference between this and traditional currency, or how can I convert it? And then maybe everybody's talking about, okay, so everybody kind of goes over what it is, what the difference is, how I can get into it, entry level, starter tips for it. But maybe there's a hole in, people want to know how they can transfer their existing savings, let's say into Bitcoin. What's the most prudent way to do that? And you're like, well, there's a ton of table of content, notes about A, B, and C topic, but subsection, A1 and B1 aren't really covered. So again, that can be a way for you to add value and to distinguish yourself. So as you're doing that keyword research, that table of content research, you could say, all right, this is a new approach. This is somewhere that I can leverage some unique insight and make an impact.
Yep. And I think that perfectly, again, you're doing this everything tonight. You're leading me perfectly into the next thing. Okay. So this idea of the next thing we're going to look at, I'm just going to click into The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. We want to look at reviews for books. We want to think about, okay, what is missing? So like you just said, what's missing from the table of contents? What subject is there that you could bring value to that you know about? But maybe is missing some really popular books. Now, I don't know how many negative reviews this book has, or how many critical. I know this is pretty good. There's not too many here. I would click into so mostly you're going to avoid the 5 stars reviews. That's not really going to help us here unless you want to read through every one. We're going to look at more of the 2 or 3. I don't find 1-star reviews to be very helpful. 1-star reviews are usually people that just say, I ordered the Kindle, I didn't get the paperback. Right. Whatever, people not really understanding the whole thing. So we're going to look at the 2 and 3-star reviews and avoiding the 1s. I mean, you could look at the 1s, but for the most part, it's not necessarily going to help you. So when you're doing this, you're reading these reviews, you're reading the 2 and 3-star reviews. What was it about this book that compelled someone to leave, several of these rather lengthy 2-star reviews? Now, the more books you sell, the more negative reviews you're going to have. So it doesn't reflect negatively on this book, but for whatever reason, these people felt like there was something missing out. So I'm not going to read through these right now. You can do that when you're looking through the different books in your genre. But just thinking about what's missing, how can I make my book something that obviously you're not going to reach everyone. You're not going to connect with everyone, but connecting with that missing link. If we're talking about finding that line, maybe you can find that line in here. Hey, I actually know the answers to these questions, or, obviously some people are never going to be pleased, but again, there's a lot that you can do with this.
Right. Yeah, no, great information. There's, if somebody cares enough to write, 100 words, even several hundred words about a topic, they've downloaded your book, maybe they're a verified purchaser. In many cases they are, then they care. And so if they care, they're probably in your target demographic if you're thinking about writing the same thing. So yeah, I mean, it's great. Just like you said, great, valuable information and feedback about what they want, what they're looking for. And if obviously, you want to speak from experience, speak from a place of credibility, don't advertise answers to something that you never address or are never able to provide insight on. But to the extent that you can provide that insight, do that, because people are telling you what they're willing to pay money for to learn about.
Yep. And I just, before we move on, I just wanted to highlight this part. This is why I love reading through reviews. You're going to get so many laughs. At one point, I was starting to wonder when he would tell us about the Miracle Morning underpants to help with our miracle morning. Why? Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, hilarious. You're going to find a lot of good golden nuggets in there as well that you're not necessarily going to do anything with, but hopefully it'll make you chuckle a little bit.
Right. So one thing I wanted to ask about the reasoning for not really putting too much stock into 1-star reviews is those are folks who maybe have a chip on their shoulder, aren't necessarily. So is that
typically, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, this review right here is a 1-star review, but she has a ton in there. I think that's okay. If it's showing up as a top critical review, I mean, 782 people found this helpful. Right. I wouldn't knock that in any way. Just generally, if you're looking to do some quick research, you're going to think time-wise too. I wouldn't spend a lot of time with the ones, but if there's ones like this, certainly you could pull something from that.
Cool. Yeah. It reminds me, I don't know if this service still exists, and I don't even remember the name of it, but this is also, by the way, very against Amazon's terms of service. We'd never participate and don't advise anybody to do it if it's still out there. But it was a service that offered free, paid, verified, fake 1-star reviews. So they would be just things that are kind of outlandish, kind of like you were saying, I purchased the Kindle and I never got the paperback, and what's wrong? Or, the battery pack was missing and it fell out of the box that it was shipping from, or, any number of other issues. And oftentimes they would be a little bit funny, and they would be phrased in such a way that you almost garnered sympathy for the content creator. You're like, this person's an idiot. Like, why are they even commenting? Like, and it was they said sometimes, and again, this was sort of humorous, but sometimes having a hilariously bad review can do more good than a shallow, praising review. Yep. And I think that can be accurate. There are times when somebody will misrepresent the author, misrepresent what they're saying, and then you'll have a bunch of comments, people who are responding and engaging and saying, no, you're misunderstanding it, or this author didn't say that at all, or you're not really getting it. And then you get to see some of the more organic exchange and interaction and support that the content creator has, and that can be enough to sway somebody, kind of over the fence. Yep.
Yeah. So 2 things. I don't remember the second one, but the first thing was you can also click, once you click into the ratings, you can also click on the see all critical reviews. That should rank them in order. It's probably, if I click on that, it's probably going to pull that. Yeah, it's going to put hers first, and then you'll get to see the order. Mostly Amazon is organizing it in a way that for whatever reasons they deem these are the best critical reviews. So that's just one way to look at that. And then, the other thing I was going to say was based on what you were saying is you don't want to put up a book and get 100 5-star reviews with nothing critical at all. It just doesn't look great to have no critical. So when we tell this to our authors, when you're reaching out for reviews and someone says, I wasn't a huge fan of this book, it's more of a 2 to 3 star. I just didn't get it. I just didn't like it. Encourage them to go on and write that review. A 2 or 3 star review, a few of them is not a bad thing. Now, if you start to get 10 or 20 and it starts to pull down your rating, that's something to consider too. If a book is rated 3.5 stars, then maybe think about, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong here? I missed the mark somehow, because for the most part, if you put a book out there, it's generally, once you start getting the reviews that flood in, you're not going to get, if you're focused on quality, you're not, most likely, most of the time, you're not going to get an average rating of lower than 3.5 stars, lower than 4 stars. It's just not generally something that happens because most people don't leave reviews.
Right.
But if you are getting that, just ask yourself those questions and figure out what's happening.
Right.
But yeah, as far as overall average goes, having 1 or 2 critical reviews is no big deal at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if they are thoughtful and sincere and maybe have some constructive feedback to, on ways that you can improve. Sometimes there could even be situations where they say, there was this element that I was really looking for that it didn't have, and I thought the author didn't do a good job explaining this portion. You can make updates, you can change it, you can have new editions of the book, and you can even respond to those people later and say, hey, great insight. Chapter 8 has been updated. Please download the new edition, if you have the Kindle version. And, or, if you want, you can even kind of go above and beyond and say, here's my website, contact me. I will personally send you a new paperback edition. If you purchase the paperback edition, thank you for the feedback. And I hope the new content delivers more of what you were looking for.
Yep. And I love that because for the most part, for me, people ask, Jordan, should I respond to negative reviews? I always say no, like that's just not something you should do. But in that case, I would definitely grant the exception. You're not going in to tell them that they're wrong. You're going in to say, hey, I see your feedback. I appreciated it. I updated it. I worked through that. And then you're trying to right that wrong. They may not respond. But yeah, I do like that.
Right. The other piece of advice I've heard on that, and I think this was Dale Roberts again, who mentioned it, is on the question of should I respond to negative reviews?
Yeah. You
should only engage with reviews to the extent that you're willing to for all of them. So, it doesn't look good if you have a single, if you're responding to one negative review and then you have a dozen other ones and you're not responding to those, because then you're thinking, all right, well, maybe that one person, they were off base, but the author didn't have any response, to the other, handful of negative reviews. Maybe whatever their criticisms are actually legit. Yeah. So if you're willing to engage on a rolling basis with those reviews, then that might be something you can consider, positive or negative. But if you're not, then it may not be to your advantage to set that precedent, because then you have people questioning why you're not engaging, on these other ones.
Yep.
Cool.
And the third thing I was going to do, if you're cool with it, Rob, is you can do this. You can do a lot of this within Amazon. But I don't know, we haven't talked much in the past about, like we were mentioning before, KDP Rocket is now Publisher Rocket. Mm-hmm. This is a program that was put out several years ago now by Dave Chesson over at Kindlepreneur. Now, we recommend a lot of his resources. He has a lot of good stuff. This is just one of his paid resources. I use it and I think it's super necessary. We definitely recommend it to a lot of our authors, just as probably as far as programs go, one of the best for doing a lot of what we just did on Amazon, but expanding from there. So looking at keywords, if you were going to look up, I'm just going to jump in here to, let's just say productivity again.
Right.
This is just showing different keywords that pop up when you're typing in productivity. Now, you can also do this on different programs online, such as like a Google keyword planner if you were looking at other keywords. But for the most part, Dave pulls his research right from Amazon. This is filling in the blanks with Amazon's. If you start typing in a word, Amazon will start to finish the word. This is using a lot of Amazon search features to build this data. So it's pulling it straight from Amazon. Mm-hmm. But I use this every time I am doing what I just did on Amazon there. When I'm getting a kind of a broader picture, I'll start to pull it in this and see, okay, what are people searching? Are people searching for productivity? Let's just look at it.
Sure.
So people just typing in the word productivity, there's about 1,600 searches on Amazon per month. That's that number right there. But competition score of 100. So if you are going to write a book on productivity, you're not necessarily going to shoot for the keyword productivity. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the overall thing that you're shooting for, we wouldn't recommend putting it in your main title. You don't want to call it like the productivity book. I mean, that's obviously really boring. You want to make your title interesting, but just as an idea, as of something you definitely would not want to do. You don't want to shoot for that keyword. But what this does is it just gives you what people are searching for. I mean, 1,600 is pretty good, but there are better keywords, and also the competition's so high. This is the amount of books that show up on Amazon. So there's 9,700 other books that are going for that keyword productivity. Now, maybe they have it in the title, maybe they have it in the subtitle, book description, the keywords that you're putting in on the Amazon 7 keywords when you go to input your book. And we may want to talk about that more in depth in another video, but just this tool is another way I build that data. But when we're starting and you're looking for ideas, this is just great because, again, you can kind of see what people are searching for. And then also you can kind of go, and I have a blog post that goes over this, and I went over the 4 major things up here. You got keyword search, competition, category, and Amazon marketing services keyword search. I went over all 4 of these on a blog that I wrote on my site, and we'll link to that in there as well, so you can kind of see the different videos of me using each one. I don't want to get too deep into all of them tonight, but this is just another tool, another way to do some searching on Amazon. Similar to what we just did, we're looking at competition. I'm just going to click this competition thing. You can see that a lot of these same books are popping up. So you can see that Getting Things Done, Free to Focus. So these books were showing up when we were looking at productivity. If you remember from the beginning, that's what was showing up. So he's pulling this data for you. So instead of looking on Amazon, we're looking to see how that book is doing. So Getting Things Done, you can kind of see that what the daily sales are. Now he's pulling those numbers from the ranking. So that's this number right here. The ABSR is average bestseller rank. No, Amazon bestseller rank. There we go. Average is not right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Amazon bestseller rank. He's pulling those numbers. So that book is making about $72 a day with sales at $16.64. All of that is being pulled from the bestseller rank as it is right now. So these numbers are just estimates. He has a tool that he uses. Actually, he has it on his site where if you type in the bestseller rank of a book, you can kind of see how many average books that is selling in a day. But again, that bestseller rank it fluctuates so often. I believe every hour, sometimes even more than that.
Oh wow!
So
so with Publisher Rocket, does that continually update the projected sales or estimated sales based on that? Is it continually sort of populating new data, or is this a kind of screenshot of whenever you purchase the product?
See, I believe that, and I don't know if it's, I think you'd have to have a lot of, in my mind, I think to make an average over time, I think you'd have to have more computing data in there, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think from my perspective, this data right here is being pulled from this number. So right where it is right now, as soon as you type it in, it's pulling this live from Amazon. So as soon as I type in productivity, it's pulling that page live. And if we looked on Amazon, this probably is what the rank of that book is. So let's just see if it's pulling it live. Yeah, 5864. Yeah, it's pulling it live. I was curious. I wasn't 100% sure.
Data of this material.
Yes.
Sounds like that. Cool. Yeah. No. I mean, another reason that that Publisher Rocket is very helpful. You know, you have all of this kind of concise information available in front of you without having to go to the individual pages, kind of jot things down or remember them. So it's a great, it has a lot of different tools and different features that just make the whole thing a lot faster. Like I said, as far as research goes, as far as what we're looking at right now, this keyword search is something I do every time I'm getting started to, when I start to bring the ideas out of my head into, okay, what do I want to write about that's actually going to, help people, that's something people are looking for. Right.
I'm looking at this.
Great.
So those are the 3 things I wanted to share. Cool. As I said before, Publisher Rocket isn't something that every single author definitely needs to have. But as far as tools go, as far as tools I like and recommend, it's definitely at the top of the list. I believe right now, as of this video, it's $97 or right around $100. I think, I'm not 100% sure if that has stayed since he's updated to Publisher Rocket. I believe that's what it is. But yeah, it's a good program to have, and just to make your searches just a little bit faster.
Cool. Right on. So, well, yeah. Would you include a link to that product as well down in the description?
Yeah, I'll include the link to kind of my blog post where I go over it in more detail.
Sweet.
And then I'll put the link to KDP Rocket itself. So you can see
Publisher
Dave has a lot of
KDP Rocket. He's going to get mad at you.
Did I say KDP Rocket
You sure
again?
did.
Oh man, dude, I'm trying so hard to say the right one.
No, I know.
I'm sure everyone's struggling with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was KDP Rocket for
a long time.
Years. Yeah, for a long time. So,
and the reason he changed it to Publisher Rocket is that when you're searching for keywords, it used to be all on the well, we don't need to pull it up again. It used to be all ebook data, but he actually has actual print book, like paperback data within the program as well. And he said, I don't know if I want to like keep having it as in like KDP Kindle when this program could be used to expand like for other platforms as well.
Well, I think he also, in one of his podcasts, he mentioned that it aggregates data from Barnes and Noble or some other retailer, one or more other retailers as well. And so,
cool! I did not know that. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so he didn't want to be advertising a competitor while simultaneously pulling data or getting access to data from a different.
There we go.
So yeah, I mean, everybody out there, definitely check out Dave Chesson, Kindlepreneur. His content's really good. His articles are really sharp and smart and thoughtful. He doesn't produce content every day. He's not I wouldn't say a volume content, but all the things that he does are very high quality, thoroughly vetted, well edited. I know Jordan has had you've had a guest post on there. He's had a number of other guest content creators on there. So he does
a fun process, but grueling. He is exactly what you're saying. He wants it to be good. Jordan, I want you to tweak this part, and it was good. It was like it pushed me to make sure I was writing something super valuable. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of some of my better teachers and professors. Back in school. It's great when you get the the A right away, but when you have the professors like B-, I think you could tighten it up. If you want to rewrite, talk to me. And you're like, okay. Yeah, I guess that's where we're going. But then after you're like, yeah, actually you're right. That was a little bit sloppy. You picked up on where I was lazy, and kudos to you. So thanks for making it better. Cool. Okay, so we've chatted for a reasonable amount of time here. Was there anything else that you wanted to share or talk about before we wrap up?
The only thing I think it could be super helpful once you start to get to the point where you're running these ideas through your head is run them by someone else. Whether it's we offer that call. I think we've mentioned that before, Rob. Like, hey, just get on the phone with us, and even if you don't end up working with us, we'd love to chat with you and talk about ideas. And that's something we're happy to do. Or just run those ideas by anyone. Hey, I'm thinking about writing a book. People search for it like it is something, but what do you think about this idea? And you don't want to 100% rely on the advice of friends, but at the same time, if you share your idea with 10 people and everyone says don't write that book, you kind of have some feedback to go with there. So definitely, as you start to build your ideas, and this is something I need to do more as well, talk to people about those ideas and see what they think.
Right. Yeah. And one other thing that I wanted to share, and this is a tip that Hassan Osman, who we mentioned last week, has pointed out multiple times in his podcast, which are, by the way, very good. And everybody visit writeraontheside.com if you're interested in more of his stuff.
Yeah, we'll link to that again.
Yeah. But he said, don't be afraid if you go and you search for a topic and there's a handful of other books on the topic. Some people think, all right, well, the market's flooded. That's, there's going to be no place for me. That's not necessarily the case. Many people who are learning a new field, and he gives his own example of, I think he was learning JavaScript or some other coding language. And he read 5 or 10 of the top performing books in that arena because people learn in different ways. They can get more information. And if there is relatively high competition, it means that there's a market. It means there's enough to support people out there who are producing content for this because there is a buying audience. And so you can certainly do well by identifying a hot niche that is underserved. So, I'm not saying don't consider that as a path as well. but don't necessarily think that if there's something that you're that somebody else has written about before, that there's not a new angle or new insight or new take that you can offer that could be profitable as well.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we're good for now. Folks, thanks for watching. Anybody, Dale? It looks like you gave a thumbs up. So thanks, Dale. We appreciate you dropping in. What's up, guys? Yeah. And for folks out there interested in joining us, we are going to do our best to be a little bit more consistent. Well, not consistent about it. We've been pretty consistent, but to give people a little bit more forenotice on what's going on. Oh yeah,
I think generally, Rob, we've been meeting Thursday nights. That's probably what it's going to end up being. But that's for now. We'll figure out a time.
Yeah, we'll try and post on our Facebook page. So if anybody's interested in visiting us there, facebook.com/Archangel Inc. Publishing, and we'll try and have notice about what we're going to talk about and when we're going to do it. But yeah, we can certainly. This Thursday time frame has been working well, folks. If you're interested in anything that we're talking about or want to hear more about it, or have ideas for future topics, definitely let us know. If there's a question that you have that's kind of burning inside of you, or something that you've been navigating, then give us a shout. We'll do our best to answer. And stream to the group too. Yeah, so Dale, I'll have to talk to you about that. Maybe we'll be able to stream to the DIY publishing group out there. That could be a lot of fun and can get some other engagement as well. But in any event, thank everybody for tuning in. For anybody who's watching this on repeat later afterward, and feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, show all that social media love to us. Any other thoughts before we go, Jordan?
No, I'm good. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Awesome. Yep. Have a good one, and thank you, Jordan, for putting this together. This is a great demo.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Yep. See you guys.